Where the Treetop Glistens, Part 1. Ellen Opengate knows one thing. A good private detective has to keep their ears open at all times. To do that, you have to go places and situate yourself near to where people talk. That's why she was at Joe's Cafe in the first place, sitting in a booth drinking coffee and enjoying a blueberry muffin. From the booth behind her back, she strained her ears to hear a bit of conversation. I never did ever find anything in that tree. It was an innocuous enough remark, held no meaning, revealed no details, hardly worth listening to at all. What were you expecting to find the first time you looked into a tree? A second voice now inquired. You know what I was hoping for, so let's stay on point. As trees are so easily overlooked, unnoticed by many who might just pass right under it, they never even bother to look up. And the leaves provide perfect camouflage. Yes, I think I see your point. We'll have to decide tonight. Time is running short. Our window of opportunity is closing. Ellen listened intently. On a small notepad she scrawled, Decide what? We can't go back there again. Not after what we just went through. Then we should just give up. Wasted all that time for nothing. Go home with our tail between our legs. Doesn't seem right. We should be paid for our troubles. How much you figure? Gotta be at least a couple thousand. Hanging there in broad daylight. It's only a matter of time before someone comes along. It's been 4 days now. We'll be lucky if it's still there. I say tonight's the night. 4 days, thought Helen. What happened 4 days ago? We can't take the car. It's too risky. After all, it's only 3 blocks from here on Upton. We can go under the cover of darkness and get out of the way if we see someone coming or going. Ellen wrote on her pad, Upton. She racked her brains. What's on Upton? 3 blocks over, hanging in a tree. You got it all figured out, don't you? Just go over there once it's dark and retrieve it. It sounds so easy when you say it. It is easy. One of the things you have to remember is don't overcomplicate things. Don't go looking for trouble where none exists. I'll keep a lookout while you get the loot. Simple, see? Just reach up, untie the bags, and Bob's your uncle. That was all Ellen needed to hear. She slid out of her booth, looking innocent, not paying heed to the 2 men in the next booth, slipped her notebook in her backpack and went to the counter to pay her bill. Old Joe took her crisp 20 and gave her change. Got plans for tonight, Ellen? No, nothing special. Might do some laundry after I head over to the library to see if I can find a good mystery novel, a whodunit that I haven't read yet. Well, take it easy and keep your wits about you. You can't be too careful these days. Don't you worry. I won't be walking under any trees. This last unfortunate remark was overheard by the 2 men who also came to the counter to pay their bill. Ellen left the cafe and stepped quickly into the stationery shop beside it. The 2 men shortly followed, walking right by the store. She waited a few moments and took up the pursuit. Do you think that girl overheard us? Where'd she get to anyways? Simple. Like I said, keep it simple. No need to complicate matters. Let's not overthink things too much. One step at a time. Ellen wasn't thinking one step at a time. She spotted a cab behind her. Hailing the cab, she told the driver to step on it. 3 corners down. Let me off there. She passed the 2 walking men before they reached the first corner. When she arrived at her destination, she directed the driver. Wait for me. She hurried to the nearest tree and was surprised to see 2 bags hanging from a low branch. She undid them, carried them to the cab, shut the door just as the 2 men arrived and headed for the tree. Where to now? The cabbie asked. Straight ahead 2 blocks, turn left on Ellis, and drop me off at the end of the first block. What do you have there, if you don't mind me asking? These are a part of a scavenger hunt I'm participating in. 2 blocks ahead, and I'm to look for a keychain with a cat on it. Those 2 fellows, are they on the other team? Look a little old for a scavenger hunt, if you ask me. Do you mind if I give them a lift also? Could use the money. They can get their own ride. I will make it worth your while. My while can be worth quite a bit. My worth seems to be quite valuable at this moment, whether I'm driving or sitting here. What are you proposing? Whatever is in those bags. might be considerably more valuable than a few extra dollars. You're not really thinking of holding me hostage, are you? The kind of prison term they hand out for that infraction can be severe. No, of course not. But I'm suggesting a business arrangement. If we can complete it in a few seconds before those two notice us, then all the better. What do you want? One of those bags will do. 50%. That's a lot for someone who didn't take any chances. Well, that's not quite right, is it? She leaned towards Artie Odometer, cab driver. I know your name, and the cops will hear it also. They'll hear of how we were a team. What's in those bags? I should know since my neck is stuck in the noose now. I don't know. Money, if you ask me, feels like money and has the same weight. Why don't we go somewhere and have a look? That's how they ended up back at Joe's Cafe. The two smuggled bags in beneath Ellen's coat. Old Joe watched from a distance as the two wrestled over their booty. They were busy conferring. He, unnoticed, approached. More coffee? A touch more? His eye caught the sight of one of the bags. Oh, are you in that as well? Bill and Pete were in earlier. They pretty much described those bags. Said they were to go down 3 blocks and recover them. They had to hurry because this is the last night. The last night? The last night of the Christmas scavenger hunt, of course. Ends in less than an hour from now. I believe they should be here any time now. I have a map of all the clues and where they can be found. I'll take those 2 bags and add them in with all the other prizes. Ellen Opengate and Artie Odometer pondered over their complex relationship. Can I give you a lift home? No, I think it's best if I walk. They made their departure within a few minutes of Bill and Pete's return to the cafe, just as old Joe was putting the bags in the safe. Can't believe our luck. I feel like such a fool. Didn't even get a good look at that girl. If she had anything to do with it, put the money in the tree. Put the money in the tree. Keep it simple. Well, it's as simple as you can get now. Gone up in smoke. Old Joe approached the two, lightly whistling a tune. It was I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas, and just had reached Where the Treetop Glistens, and added with a smile, Coffee? Ellen made her way up in the semi-darkness. Her handbag felt stuffed. You couldn't cram another thing in it, even if you tried. She had to smile. In the back of the cab, when Artie Odometer had started to give her a hard time, she had half emptied the bags. She would have completely emptied them, but didn't have any opportunity to refill them with anything. How much money had she managed to gather up now occupied her thoughts. Old Joe smiled when he thought how easily he had removed the bags from the two. That's thinking on your feet, he told himself. At midnight, which was the usual closing time, he put the close sign in the window and headed for the safe. It's not every day bags of money fall into your lap. His hand shook a little as he grabbed the 2 cloth bags. Closing the door to the office, he placed the bag on the desk and sat looking at them for a few minutes. You're not in trouble yet, he told himself. All you have to do is call the police and report how you outsmarted a couple of local rubes out of their loot. Don't have to reveal anyone's identity. No point in churning up hard feelings where none exist. But what is the harm in looking inside the bags before then? The money, in 20s, came close to $10,000. There was just one thing that gave old Joe trouble. The money wasn't evenly distributed. One held almost $2,000 more than the other. Bill and Pete were staggered. No other word for it. They had lost track of their greatest criminal triumph, perfectly planned and executed, only to have it disappear. Think of what we could have done with that money. Could have taken it easy for the next few months and planned our next heist. How much money you got? Me? I'm busted. Lucky to find dust in my pocket. Where do you suppose the money went? Someone must have spotted it in the trees and grabbed them. What would you do if you found money hanging in a tree? I'd think of you. You could only be stupid enough to come up with a plan like that. And I'd be thinking of you. You could only hear about a scheme like that and go along with it. Ellen finally reached her apartment building. Turning her head to the left and right and seeing herself alone, she entered into the building. She also placed the money on the desk. She separated the bills into 2 piles. The money added up to more than $9,000. She didn't think of calling the police. She was thinking of old Joe, saying he was going to put the bags into his safe. Got to be another $9,000 in those bags. Some scavenger hunt, she thought. Artie Odometer counted his take from the night of cab driving. $92 even. He thought how close he had come to getting into trouble. The taxi license, with his name on it, was in complete view. I won't make that mistake again. She was one cool customer, wasn't she? Abduction. I feel sorry for anyone who attempts to abduct her. His first foray into crime, his first time trying to gain an edge, had blown up in his face, all for a scavenger hunt. That's lunacy, if I ever heard of it. Another thought crossed his mind. Old Joe said he was putting the bags into the safe with all the other prizes. Why would prizes for a scavenger hunt require a safe? Why not just leave them on the counter in a basket? The tumblers in his mind began to slowly fall into place, one at a time. It was then Artie Odometer's mind turned towards his second criminal idea. Hey, what gives? Bill Leftfoot and Pete, gone missing, licked their wounds. Their criminal minds were whirling with activity. Look at it one way, and anyone could have found the money, I suppose. Not very likely, if you ask me. Like I said, nobody looks into trees. What do you think now? A squirrel done it? Ha ha, you're a funny guy. No, I was thinking the only thing that makes sense. What if it was that girl? What if she got the jump on us? She would only need a few minutes to pull it off. We were walking normally, not to draw attention to ourselves. She could have jogged if she wanted. Nobody would suspect her of a thing. We gotta go back to that diner and see if she turns up again. The bags are in the safe, thought Ellen. Got to hold at least another 9,000. The thought that old Joe knew those bags contained thousands, and she turned them over without a protest, bothered her. I should go back to the cafe, threaten to report him to the police for being in possession of stolen funds. That should upset him enough to shake loose a few thousand. Artie Odometer checked his watch. His feet ached. Put in too many miles today, he thought, rubbing his toes. I just might have to scout out that cafe myself tomorrow. If I see her, I'll just be upfront about how this whole business about a scavenger hunt is a scam. I should have just grabbed one of those bags and told her to get lost. What could she do? After all, she was in possession of one herself. Old Joe shifted uneasily in his office chair. On an impulse, he opened the safe, emptied the bags of money. He refilled them with newspapers and put them back inside. He stashed the money in the lower drawer of his desk. Now I should call the cops in the morning, reporting how I recovered a few bags of money from a couple of shady characters. How was I to know they only contained paper? End of part 1 of Where the Tree Tops Glisten.